I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are talking about a spellbinding book. It is called Stranger on the Shore. It is written by William Borak, and it is a fictional tale of mystery, love, and circumstances that'll have you turning the pages like you're fanning yourself. You'll want to get through it and find out what's next. It begins with the story of Marisa, a beautiful young woman found nearly lifeless on the banks of the East River in New York City. As the plot thickens, Marissa's true identity is revealed, leading to a dangerous battle with one of the most notorious drug cartel leaders. With surprising twists and turns throughout, the story unfolds as Chris and Marisa navigate the challenges of love and fate, culminating in a thrilling conclusion that will leave readers on the edge of their seats. We are delighted to have William on the spotlight today. We thank the folks at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. William, thank you so much. May I call you Bill?
Oh, please do, sir.
Okay, sounds good. Good to
Yep.
see you today.
I am thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. I really loved your book. It's a real page turner. It reminds me of a film noir type of scenario. It's got such great mystery, such great characters, such intrigue. How did you get this idea for this story?
It's funny. During the pandemic, obviously, was a good time to focus on writing. And there was always a song in the back, though, prior to that time, Stranger on the Shore by Acker Bill.
Hmm.
It was a lovely tune. Actually, it goes way back to the 60s. And I always loved that song. And I always loved the fact of stranger on the shore. It just kind of generated a lot of different thoughts. First, it was, well, should I be thinking about a romance story? And I used to do a lot of writing of short stories.
Hmm.
Um, so I said, okay, let me write a little short story about stranger on the shore. But I said, you know what? I want to have a twist with this. I always like to have a little irony. I was a big O. Henry fan, and he was a writer who always had these ironical stories. Um, so I said, rather than make it a romantic, how about I have her kind of maybe injured
Hmm.
on the banks of the East River in New York City. And, let's go with a real mystery here. And then I started to get into it. Actually, but just to back up a little bit,
Hmm.
um, the story really opens with Chris, who's a very successful hedge fund manager who lives on the Jersey Shore, has a beautiful home, the deck, the whole bit. Um, and it's a twilight evening, but he, instead of being, this very happy-go-lucky guy, right now he's suffering the loss of his fiancee, Teresa,
Hmm.
who died very suddenly a year ago. They were engaged to be married. So he's really become a recluse and doing a lot of heavy drinking. And he's kind of ruminating about the loss of her. And with that appears this gorgeous young lady who's chasing her dog along the beach by the name of Abby. Um, all of a sudden, Abby is chasing the seagulls, makes a sharp turn, and lands at the feet of Chris on a deck. And with that, this gorgeous, beautiful woman who was chasing the dog appears, and her name is Ariel. She introduces herself to Chris, and she apologizes for the dog who's lying on the deck now, but near his feet. And he looks at her, and it's like she walked out of a dream. Beautiful mid-20s, mesmerizing blue eyes. They hit it off, and they make a date to meet at a party. Um, but at that party, there is no Ariel. Um, but this beautiful waitress by the name of Marissa. And the reason that she catches his attention, he picks up a scent of a perfume that his former fiancee, Teresa, always used to wear. So it's with that scent, he goes, I know that scent. And there's
Mhm.
only one woman who ever wore it, and it was this Teresa. So he says, I got to meet this waitress. So he does, and she is kind of almost a doppelganger for Teresa, but she's a Latino version, okay?
Mhm.
Has very um, ethnic Latina features, but she has mannerisms and a cadence of speech very much like Teresa's, as well as some very acute features, the high cheekbones, the thick hair, even though it's a different color. So he does. He makes a date with her, with now Marissa, instead of Ariel, because she was a no-show. So Chris is stunned by the remarkable resemblance to Teresa. But then you start to wonder, wait a second, is this a coincidence or is this some sort of scheme manipulated by the very mysterious Ariel? So the essence of the story really is this, you have this almost lifeless person who is investigated by a detective, Frank Ramos. I can't forget him. He's a key character in this story. And he's a detective who worked his way up, through the years. But he loves being a detective and solving cases.
Mhm.
So he doesn't know at first, was this a crime of passion? Was she attacked by some people? Because when she is first brought to the hospital, she's in a coma for about a month. But when she awakens, um, she has no idea who she is.
Mhm.
She doesn't even know her name, nothing about her history. But that night, for some reason, her, while she's dreaming, her brain is infused with all of the characteristics and history and her history of Teresa,
Mhm.
the woman who died and was the fiance of Chris, and she knows everything about Chris. So even though they met at this party, she doesn't want to say anything to Chris because he'll think, she's a little out there. So, so the story really now shifts focus to Marissa, and it's about her transforming through the romance that she now has with Chris into this really very charismatic and formidable person. So they have this whirlwind romance. They fall in love, deeply in love with one another. Um, and it's through the series of incredible events that she grows and improves and gains confidence and starts to, even though, and she still has this memory of Teresa, she's becoming more the person of Marissa. She's just feeling confident in that persona, if you will. Um, well, what happens is someone recognizes her from her past, and he contacts this very notorious and very powerful fellow by the name of Baca.
Mhm.
Baca is a very powerful drug cartel leader, and he has sworn to kill Marissa, although that's not who she really is. She really goes Um, well, I'm jumping ahead. Um, so there's this, he puts out a hit on Marissa. She's living at an apartment in New York City under this name of Marissa Flores. So four hitmen are sent to basically take her out. There's a ferocious battle, and unfortunately, during the course of that battle, she hits her head and is injured, and she's unconscious when they take her out. She survives it, as well as Chris, who comes to her rescue, as well as, believe it or not, I have a little part of that dog, Abby, who we saw at the way beginning with Harry L.
Yeah.
Harry L is a very mystical character throughout this entire story. And she is a catalyst who's kind of pushed Chris to have this relationship with Marissa. I know this all is kind of a little confusing to the reader. Of course, I go back and forth.
Exactly.
Um, but once she awakens and realizes who she is and that her real name is Anna Marino, um, she just takes over the book.
Mm.
And she is sworn to avenge the death of her father, who was murdered by the very evil and notorious Baca. So now you set the stage for her to seek her revenge and her destiny to combat the very evil Baca on his homeland turf in Colombia, excuse me, in Colombia, which is where uh, Marissa was originally from.
It's an
And
amazing story.
she plans really a major conflict, and she has the financial resources because when she escaped um, the bombing of her family by Baca, she relocated to the United States with the aid of a bodyguard who her dad had set up for her in the event that he knew something would happen between the two families because they were rivals at the time. So she had escaped to the US where she'd been basically hiding but plotting um, of the revenge of Baca. But unfortunately, um, she had this incident where he initially set out to kill her, but she escaped, um, but wound up. I don't want to keep giving a lot away here.
Yeah, don't want to give away the
Um,
whole story,
she
but
escaped right to the by diving into the East River from the two fellas who had kidnapped her and planned to kill her that night. But she escaped by stabbing one of the fellas, jumped into the East River, and that's how she wound up eventually on the bank of the East River. But was badly injured and almost died.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite a story.
Yeah, it's an incredible
It's
tale. It reminds me of film noir, as I mentioned. Kind of reminds me of the film Laura, if you ever saw it, with Dana Andrews, where he is
oh
investigating a woman who's been murdered, and he actually kind of falls in love with her, even though she's dead. It's a kind of a
right.
great, put that on your watch list if you
Oh
haven't watched it in a
huh?
while. It's a good
Yes,
one. Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
I've heard of it. Yes, thank you.
And it's got a haunting also melody. You love the song Stranger on the Shore. Laura is another beautiful song. The theme to that is
Yes, it is.
amazing.
Yes,
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's why your book is wonderful. It's lyrical. It appeals to the senses, and the story is unfolding in such a way that it just keeps you riveted. You have visualized this, of course, as a movie or a TV series, I'm sure, right?
Oh God, I think it'd be, the characters are all so very interesting. You have the love affair between Chris and Marisa,
Mhm.
who eventually becomes this Anna Moreno, who's really almost like was raised as a warrior princess. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, 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 so you have that aspect of it. There's all these twists and turns. You don't realize who Ariel is till halfway through the story when she challenges Chris, hey, you can be this individual who stays on the Jersey Shore. Yeah, you're a successful hedge fund manager, but you're drinking your life away. Do you
Mhm.
want to be that person, or do you want to take a little risk in your life and take charge of your life? But the way to do that is really the kind of give a chance and have this relationship with Marissa and see where it takes you, because I guarantee you will find it a much more rewarding and challenging life. Um, and that's a decision that she kind of puts out there for him to choose. Um, but at that point, she reveals who she really is. So there's all these little um, mysteries, revelations, and it's really not till the last chapter that all the outstanding questions are resolved, and they are all resolved.
Yeah.
The reader will be very satisfied with how all these little interconnected mysteries are resolved.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to play Frank Ramos. I want to be the detective. So we'll cast me as
Oh,
that.
okay.
We'll cast
Okay.
Chris Pine as Chris. I think he'd be a good
Ooh,
Chris.
I was thinking of him. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good hero type, but you
He'd
could
be
see him
perfect
maybe
as
a little
Chris.
troubled. And
Yeah.
for Marissa, it's
Yep.
tough. I mean, I say like a younger Jennifer Lopez, who's maybe a better actress.
Or yes, I was also thinking of a younger Penelope Cruz.
Perfect.
Some beautiful woman,
Yeah,
um, but also very powerful, and as to who has a lot of presence.
absolutely.
Because towards the end of the book, she really takes charge of planning the strategy to, you know, uh, have this enormous strategic battle with against Baca and really his soldiers,
Right.
because she has to return to Colombia to do all of this, and it's really uh, quite an ending.
And it's
That's
quite a
all I'll
role for
say.
any actress, and it is quite a book. The name of the book is Stranger on the Shore. It is written by William J. Borak. It is available everywhere books are sold, including Amazon. The links will be posted under this interview, so you can order it easily. It is a spellbinding fictional tale of mystery, love, and destiny with more twists and turns than the cyclone at Coney Island. This book is highly recommended. It is pure delight. Bill, thank you so much for joining us here
Oh,
today on Spotlight.
oh, and thank you. I mean, what an opportunity to speak with you. I've heard so much about you and your series. So, yes, thank you. I am truly uh, honored to be here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and the honor is all mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.